Hi, welcome back to Snakes and Adders. This is like an additional note section to go on the end of the Stress in Reptiles Part 2, Environmental Stress. Thing is, I don't have a script or know even really what I'm going to say, and I sat and reviewed it last night, and I realised I'd left some stuff off. It's just a freestyle, basically, talking about a subject that pops in my head. And yeah, I wasn't happy. There's some things that maybe I should have gone over that I didn't. Chief amongst which is we talked about heat, we didn't talk about cool ends or temperatures being too cool, and we're going to lead to respiratory illnesses, chest infections, pneumonias, and a trip to the vet and a course of antibiotics to put it right. You are responsible for the throttle in the form of heat, and we can either over rev or under rev the engine. Your reptile's immune system, being cold-blooded, the speed at which it responds to a threat or stressor is dependent upon the temperature that it's at. So equally important is that we don't keep them too cool and we don't keep them too hot. If we keep them too cool, we've got the respiratory infections. Keep them too hot, we've got the constipation, the shedding issues, all the rest of it. Coupled with that, and this is one of the elements I left off, is humidity. When you're dealing with your subtropical, tropical animals, if we keep them too dry, that's going to lead to health issues in and of themselves. So we'll take a baby white-lipped python, wafer-thin skin, truly a jungle snake. We keep those babies bone dry. One, they're going to have the bad sheds because they haven't got the humidity to actually be able to shed the skin properly. Two, they'll almost certainly develop what looks like a respiratory infection, even though they're too dry. And it's almost as if their body is tuned up to have a certain amount of moisture in the air to keep the lungs lubricated and keep them healthy. This is where we have to respect where an animal's from. Years back, I remember reading text about basically people keeping their white-lipped babies in the incubator for the first couple of months, where it's 100% humidity, to help them shed their skin and all the rest of it, because their skin was so thin. And the same with the Bismarcks and things, that if they got too dry and too crozzled and the shed skin didn't want to come off, they could actually tear their skin. It was that serious. Equally, humidity where it's not supposed to be is also an issue. We'll take the water snakes and garter snakes. They are semi-aquatic. They're going to spend a lot of time in rivers, slow-moving ponds, pools, all the rest of it. But when they come out, they need to be able to dry off. If we keep them in a vivarium where we've got a large pool and we haven't provided adequate ventilation, the tank's going to steam up, and when it steams up, that's going to lead to your snake blistering out and developing a skin infection. So they equally, humidity where it's supposed to be is a good thing, and obviously maintaining that. And you can either encourage airflow, discourage airflow to try and help you achieve that goal. Then also, what we were talking about the other day was glass barriers. Chinese water dragons, they belong to a family called the agamids. They're a very active diurnal group of lizards, and such as the terrariums that we've got for sale, whether they be Xterra, whether you buy the Zoomeds or the Komodos or whatever else, they're just glass barriers all the way around. And yet advertised on the sides of these tanks are lizards that are totally unsuitable. And yeah, just because it's on the box or Pets at Home sell it doesn't necessarily mean that it's fit for purpose. And this is where your research comes in as well, about design, making sure that we're going to provide an environment that doesn't basically give them a load of invisible barriers that they're just going to permanently be trying to run through, scratching up against, all the rest of it. Also, with these glass top tanks, they're more suitable to your cooler temperatures, so your tropical rigs, maybe 28, 30 degrees, high humidity. They're made of glass, they're not going to rot the way that a wooden viv will, but they're open air basically at the top. And if we're trying to get them to mega hot temperatures that most of these desert agamids require, they're woefully inefficient. The heat's just going straight out the top, and the minute that you move away from the hot spot, temperature just drops off. So they're not really that great for sort of that way of doing things. Also, I never mentioned substrates. Substrates is a dodgy subject when it comes to this sort of thing, but gut impaction is a real risk, a real problem, and it tends to be with animals that are searching for something that's missing, a supplement to their diet, or they feel a deficiency. And this was particularly true of calci sand, which caused all sorts of problems with leopard geckos in the late 90s, early thousands. But then you speak to the bioactive guys, they're keeping them on the loose substrates, and because they're obviously these guys are predisposed to research their animals, then they're feeding them, they're making sure they've got a nice varied diet, they've got plenty of supplementation on there, and they're not dying of impaction and ingestion and all the rest of it. So that's worth looking at. I'm not daft enough to try and make recommendations because the substrate Nazis will come and get me. Substrates themselves can actually be a use of security for such as the sandfish and burb skinks, which will swim through it, and that's their security right there. So yes, and obviously we're going to clean that out fairly regularly, spot check. What I would say as well is about Immuno Response, and this is down to cleanliness and involves substrates, and there's different ways and means of doing it. So when I mentioned, like, you got the US style, which is the paper, and you got the European style, which is the bioactive. And the bioactive, they've got these cleanup crews, little isopods and all the rest of it, cleaning up the detritus and trying to get shut of the mess. And there becomes a base bacterial or pathogen level, and over time the animal's immune system will be strengthened by this. They become used to it, and they don't respond in a detrimental or bad way. Usually these tanks have had to be matured, had to go through a mould process. It all goes wrong when it all just gets chucked in and then the animal goes in after, rather than letting the tank mature first. And this is about building up immuno strength. If we've got them on paper, we're cleaning them out. We're sterilising their box every week. What actually we're doing is teaching this animal that there's no bacteria here. There is nothing to test your immuno resilience, nothing to test your immuno strength. And then your immuno response at the presence of a bacterial threat or a pathogenic threat, you completely fall down because you've got no immune strength. So there is an argument for having a certain amount of base bacteria there. Now, I am not saying that your tank needs to be dirty. Please, no, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that there are opportunities where you don't necessarily need to scrub, keep everything absolutely polished and clean, because in the long run, sometimes actually that can be detrimental to the animals because they don't have any markers for immuno response, because they're not used to any bacteria being present. The bioactive guys, because they're recreating the forests, the deserts, the jungles, there is going to be some of this base level bacteria and pathogen. I don't necessarily agree they leave carcasses in bloody bibs and all sorts of horribleness, but there's no need for that. But the base bacteria stuff is there's a thought there and a process there, and it probably lends itself more to naturalistic. I would never recommend anybody lets their rat go to rack and ruin. But with the bioactives, it makes sense. Maybe I was a little rough on them the other day. What they're trying to do is get to a stage where they call it homeostasis, and homeostasis is where they're in natural balance with both good and bad work together to create a healthy life cycle. And that's what happens in the wild, and that's what they're trying to recreate. And not all good. It's not all good bacteria. There's the bad there as well, and the two counterbalance to create this homeostasis. And that's a lot harder to recreate in a rack system. So, yeah, they were just some thoughts that I had, and like I said, I kind of just freestyle for 5-6 minutes, and I don't have a script. And every now and again, I am going to miss things, and you have to forgive me if I do these little add-on videos, because it just means then that I'm getting across what I want to get across. It might not be the most succinct way, but yeah, the most important thing is you get the information, you get the message. So keep watching the videos. Part 3 is going to be social stressors, and that involves cohabitation of same or mixed species. It's bound to be a volatile one, that one, contentious, and plenty of people insist on doing it, and I just explained the risks that you're running for your animals. So yeah, make sure you check them out, and yeah, check out the website www.snakesandadders.co.uk and see how we can help. Cheers.